Alicia Mackay,
Yeah.
what's on your mind?
So 2020, big year, massive year. Lot went on.
Fair bit.
We all went, all right, let's be awesome and do awesome things and cope with things and rah-rah, right?
Well, first half of the year probably.
Yeah, because now everyone's getting a bit over it. I think there was a significant number of people that for a big chunk of this year thought, can't wait for 2020 to be over.
Yeah.
2020 is nearly over and things aren't going to get any easier.
Well,
in
you know what?
2021.
It's funny, because we have this thing called a year, which somewhere back in the day we said that's 365 days and we're going to call that thing a year. And we made up this idea. Now, just because the calendar goes dunk to 1st of January, do we imagine that things are going to magically be different for 2021?
Well, we do. It's called a temporal milestone and we rely on them to organise our lives.
Yeah. And so we rely on that, but nature doesn't work that way, right?
No, and the rest of the world doesn't work that way.
So are you saying that 2021 is not going to be any different?
I'm
Is that
not
what you're
saying it's
saying?
not going to be any different.
Is this
I'm saying
expectation
it's not
management?
necessarily going to be any easier.
Yeah.
And so why I think that's important is that I think the strategies that a lot of people have used to manage the uncertainty and the change that's been 2020 are not necessarily going to be effective long term if we need to continue using those same strategies into 2021.
100% agree. A year ago, it was about this time last year, and I was working with this group and they were all like, oh, I can't wait for Christmas, I'm so tired. Oh God, what a year it's been. This is 2019, right? And I said, stop. What would it take, thought experiment, what would it take for us to be able to get to this time of year to go, I've got gas in the tank, I'm good, life is fine, I'm going to keep running, yeah, holiday would be good, but I don't need it, I'm not hanging out for it. What would it take for us to get to that point? Now, my point here is that, yes, it's been a massive year and we've been running on strategies that aren't effective long term, but we always do that, don't we?
Oh my God, you're so right. Christmas comes every year. The tiredness comes every year. Like, you're so right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And now I'm just bouncing off this and going, so there's this whole narrative about, 2020. 2020 was crazy. 2020 was COVID. 2020 was hard. I'm so tired because of 2020. And actually, how much of that is a load of shit? And how much of it is actually, this is the same thing that happens either every year or at the end of every project or at the end of every whatever. And now we get to write it off to something else.
Yep.
But it's not about that at all.
Yep. And so I reckon it's about asking a different question, which is what are the strategies that I know work for me that I could put in place anytime? So I'm working with a team, a leadership team on Wednesday, and we're doing a year in review of how they have led through this massive
I've been
year.
doing that. I like that.
Yeah, it's great fun, right?
The timeline thing's
Yeah, but
great.
one of the questions I've got for them is what sustained you this year,
Yeah.
and what disciplines will you put in place for next year to ensure that is the thing that's going to sustain you in 2021.
Yeah.
I reckon we know this stuff, but we don't do it, and so what does that take? I don't know.
Well, here's an unpopular opinion. Actually,
I like that.
2020 is irrelevant. Everybody sucks at managing their own energy and motivation. And what we do instead is we just leap on whatever's in front of us and we blame that. And we go, oh, my kid's sick. Oh, it's been a hard year. Oh, this thing happened at work. This project derailed. My staff left. I mean, create your laundry list of reasons why everything's fucked. Can you say fucked on what's on your mind?
Totally. We've just made the rules.
All right. Create your laundry list of why everything's fucked. But there's always going to be something. And so actually the only thing that's constant is your capacity to be able to deal with that. Mm-hmm. And so actually resilience isn't about your ability to be okay. It's about your ability to have the capacity to not be okay.
Yep.
And that means having the margin in your life and
That's
the margin in your mindset to go, sometimes everything is not okay.
Yeah, and keep rolling. It's like having good suspension in the car, right? You go over the bumps, you just keep moving. And I think that's the capacity to absorb the shocks, right?
Because if your whole life depends on things being okay, like if you're running your business or your team or your project on the assumption that everything will be okay, and then when it's not, you're like, oh, well, now I can't do it. Well, who's got the problem there? It's you, mate. Assume something's going to get stuffed up.
Yeah, totally. So here we are at the point where we have some choice. And that choice is, do we carry on with these short-term strategies that have got us here just okay? Or do we actually get a little bit smarter and say, there's some stuff I could do that gives me that capacity to handle shocks, because 2021 probably not going to be too much different to 2020. What sustains you? What helps you build your capacity?
Wine.
Beer. Dancing.
Exercise.
Sugar.
Healthy.
Healthy stuff.